Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Welcome to my channel. My name is Ogbanje Joseph. Please subscribe to this channel, share, like, as well as drop a comment on the comment section. So our lecture is titled, you know, um, imperialism as a product of capitalist instinct. Imperialism as a product of capitalist instinct. Now, it is a factor within the realm of political economy. It is largely accepted that there are two major schools of thought that shape the thinking and understanding of the intermix between politics and the economy. Now, these schools of thought include the liberal school and the radical school. Now, for the liberal school of thought, imperialism is taken to be that natural or inherent tendency of man to want to expand his influence beyond his immediate environment and domain. To this school of thought, even ants, insects, and locusts, possess the inherent tendency, towards imperialist expansion and seizures. Now, according to Joseph Schumpeter, okay, imperialism is a form of social atavism characterized by an aggressive expansionism which has no objective beyond that. According to Hobson 1902, now imperialism came up as a result of the quest for national pride, quest for glory, and bellicosity. Okay, now the radical school of thought, on the other hand, okay, sees imperialism purely from the materialist perspective. Now, this doctrine states that monopoly capitalism, colonialism, and imperialism are fundamentally the same phenomena. Now, you know, they are fondly called the Marxist school. Now, according to Offiong, 1980, page 65, he defined, imperialism as the economic subordination or domination of one country or a group of countries by another for the main purpose of formal or informal control of the domestic economic resources, for the benefit of the dominating power and at the expense of the local people and their economy. Now, Yuri Popov, on the other hand, asserts that imperialism is the internationalization of capitalist, relations. Now, according to Barrett Brown, he says that, imperialism is the outward drive of certain peoples to build empire, to build empires, both former colonies and privileged position in markets, okay, protect sources of raw materials, and extend opportunities for profitable employment of labor. Now, according to Claude Ake, okay, now imperialism is the subordination of one country to another, or at any rate, the attempt to subordinate one country to another in order to maintain a relationship of unequal exchange. Andre Gonda Frank, on the other hand, looks at imperialism as the relationship between the metropole and industrialized country and the periphery. Now, in addition to the above, Orpheon 1980, page 54, actually associated imperialism with monopolistic privileges and preferences, plunder of raw materials, seizure of territories, enslavement of indigenous population, nationalism, racism, and of course, militarism. Okay, now let us look at imperialism as a product of capitalist instinct. What is the nexus between imperialism and capitalism? Okay, the nexus between imperialism and capitalism. Now, according to Hobson 1902, the major reason why imperialism came to be are: number one, the quest for market, okay, as well as opportunity for higher returns on investment. Number two, the need for raw materials. And then number three, the need to get cheap labor. Now, after the Industrial Revolution, the capitalists who have hitherto invested heavily in the science and technology started using the technology to produce commodities, and there were massive production without concomitant consumption. Okay, now the workers who were supposed to buy the commodities produced, the commodities produced were not well paid. Neither do they have the means to be able to buy all that were produced by the capitalists. Now, the capitalists, on the other hand, who are very rich but are very few in number, couldn't actually buy, okay, couldn't actually buy these massive commodities that were produced. Okay, so now this development is what can be said or equated with capitalism reaching its peak because of the overproduction and under consumption. Now, again, because of the Industrial Revolution, the European countries who are having the problem of overproduction and underconsumption decided to look for territories outside where they can ease off the commodities, and in order for them not to be enmeshed in another world war, they decided to have a conference in Berlin, Germany, to partition the world. Now, they did this, and that was the genesis of the outward drive into other territories, particularly the third world countries. Okay, now at this point, it is pertinent to note the ideas of V.I. Lenin in his classic Imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, where he captured aptly the features of imperialism as follows. Number one feature of imperialism is concentration of production and capital to create monopolies. Number two, merging of bank capital and industrial capital to create financial oligarchy. Number three, export of capital rather than commodities. Number four, division of the world into areas of influence and control. Number five, territorial division is complete. Okay, so the stages of capitalism historically that led to imperialism are as follows. What are the stages of capitalism that led to imperialism, okay, in history? Number one is primitive capitalism. Now, primitive capitalism was the slave trade era where the capitalists just started, their imperial activities. Now, it is primitive because at this point, there was technology, okay, that will, there was no technology that would do what the slaves were doing manually. So at this point, the slaves were removed from their societies and shipped abroad to work for these capitalists in their plantations and the various crude, industries. So that is actually number one. Number one is primitive capitalism. Number two is mercantilist capitalism. Now, at this point, the capitalists were mainly involved in buying and selling of goods and services. In other words, they were involved in commerce and they were buying raw materials from the third world countries, to their countries for onward manufacturing. Now, at this point, there was abolition of slave trade, and thereafter, the coast was clear for them to come to Africa to buy timber, rubber, cocoa, and other raw materials. They manufactured these raw materials into finished goods and shipped them back to Africa. All these led to protectionism and colonialism. Okay, number three, free trade capitalism. Now, this was the point where the various companies were involved in mergers and acquisition and the building of cartels and monopolies. Okay, now at this point, liberalism, privatization, and other policies set in to allow for a proper free market economy. Okay, that will bring about the forces of demand and supply to be, to be controlled by the market. Now, in summary, therefore, Capitalism and imperialism are inseparable because imperialism is simply a stage in capitalism. Now, don't forget that I've argued, before, that there are three major historical antecedents that brought about or deepen the roots of imperialism in the world today. They are primitive capitalism, mercantilist capitalism, and lastly, free trade capitalism. Thank you very much.